Hello, I'm Natasha Karamihou, and in this podcast, we will explore the interesting topic of buying and selling a property in Greece. First of all, what is actually a property buying or selling act? The sale of a property is the transfer of ownership from the seller to the buyer in exchange for the payment of an agreed price. It is a legal procedure that involves the preparation of a notarial deed and its registration at the relevant land registry office. To sell a property, it is important to acknowledge the necessary documents, costs, and procedure. For example, the costs associated with the sale, such as transfer tax and the fees of a notary public, a lawyer, and an estate agent. The last two only if you decide to involve them in this transaction. What happens at the stage of the advance payment? An advance payment is usually given in a private agreement, which mentions the terms that have been verbally agreed. The agreement includes the details of the parties, the agreed selling price, the method of payment, and the terms of the contract. Particular attention should be paid to cases where the buyers are being lent by banks. In these cases, it should be checked that they have at least the individual pre-approval for the amount the property is being sold for to avoid unnecessary discrepancies. Depending on the circumstances, a notarized preliminary purchase agreement can be signed with stronger legal power to protect the seller in case the buyer withdraws from the purchase agreement without a cause. Regarding the collection of the necessary documents for the sale of the real estate, the buyer selects the notary who will be in charge of the contract drafting, and he or she will indicate the necessary documents collection to complete the transfer. After the collection of the documents, the final contract for the transfer of the property is drawn up. The notary will indicate the order in which the certificates should be issued. Some documents may need to be collected earlier than others. For example, the engineer may find a difference between the actual square footage of the property and the statements on the plans at the tax authorities. Then he or she must declare the actual square meters. This will have an impact on the house tax, NFIA, the real estate tax, and the energy performance certificate, among other documents. A lawyer can be authorized to collect all these documents on your behalf and to speed up the process. He or she will also carry out the necessary research and control of the property titles. If legal liabilities are found by the buyer's lawyer, the seller's lawyer should be contacted so that the amounts due, if any, can be paid and proceed with the removal. In summary, the documents required to complete the transfer of a property are, among others, the title deeds, building permit, tax and insurance returns, NFIA, the house tax certificate for the last 5 years, declaration of property transfer tax, certificate of the municipality that no real estate tax is due for the transferred property, income tax return. Once all the above is said, the final signing of the contract will follow. The buyer and seller appear at the notary's office for the reading and signing of the contract. In addition, the notary may ask the lawyer who conducted the initial title control to do a final check at the land registry to ensure nothing has changed. Then the contract is printed and the parties sign it. The buyer transfers the money to the seller's bank account. This can be done either via bank transfer or by bank check, thus completing the purchase of the property on the day the final contract is signed, and provided that the price is paid in full to a bank account of the same bank. However, when the total or part of the price is paid in installments or by transfer from another bank, therefore the amount cannot appear directly in the seller's account, the terms of the contract must be drafted accordingly for the safety of the seller. After the signing of the contract, the buyer must ensure the registration of an official copy of the contract at the competent land registry office. At the same time, he or she receives the corresponding registration certificate. From that point, he or she becomes the full owner of the property. As we all understand, the process of selling a property in Greece is not simple or straightforward, it is quite bureaucratic. However, apart from the bureaucratic issues, it is very important that the relationship between the seller and the buyer is properly settled from the beginning so that the sale process runs smoothly. In summary, the sale of a property is a process that requires care, organization, and knowledge of its legal and financial aspects, which is why a lawyer's assistance is essential before signing any agreements or final contracts.